hire them. But again, this is not legal advice, it's just some general information on it.
Get our certificate and be a lawyer.
And be a lawyer, that's right. Well, it would be amazing how many Facebook lawyers we have out there. That's a topic. And they all went to law school, right? I'm gonna come back to this because at the very end, I'm gonna take a couple of minutes and I'm gonna ask, what do y'all want to hear? Because we're putting together our 2026 calendar. So I'm just gonna leave that right there, and then with a few minutes left, we'll wrap it up. But I'm gonna turn it over to Captain Lee. Give him a big round of applause.
As the judge said, I'm Captain Brian Lee. I work for the Fayette County Sheriff's Office. I started at the end of 1997. I graduated college with a Bachelor of Fine Arts with an emphasis on sculpture and a minor emphasis in ceramics. I was a district executive for the Boy Scouts of America, and then I rode with a buddy of mine who's actually a Fayette County native, which you don't find many of anymore. I rode with him one night in his patrol car, and I was hooked, and I decided to take a $20,000 pay cut. And when I started here, our starting salary was $18,000 a year. So I started as a jailer. I worked in the jail. I made deputy sheriff after going to the academy. I was a supervisor on patrol, and then I got a phone call from the major over criminal investigations at the time, who told me I was to report to the office on Monday to be a detective. And then he asked if I wanted to do that. I already heard that you didn't say no to him, so I said, of course. And he said something that I knew was right up my alley. He said, wait a minute, Monday's a holiday. You'll start getting those off. You can come in on Tuesday. So that Monday had been the first time, I think, in almost 5 years that I got a free holiday. I've been in criminal investigations since 2004. And as the judge said, I'm the captain now. I'm over our general investigators, our crime scene unit. It's nothing like what you see on TV, and our school resource officers. They're all under criminal investigations. So, second, I gotta put out there, Sheriff Babb really did want to be here today. He sends his condolences. Unfortunately, we don't schedule funerals. There's some folks I wish I could schedule. I really hope, one of the things I'm gonna ask for some help on one of these issues, and it's like Judge Thompson said earlier, where he enforces the laws, the we're same team. We don't get to write them or make them. I think if they would listen to us, we might have a little bit better world, but they won't, but they'll listen to y'all. So I'll ask for your help into that. So the biggest trend in crime in Fayette County is not burglary, it's not armed robbery, it's none of those heinous things that you see on the news every day. It's financial crimes, identity theft, fraud. Those kind of things they've grown exponentially. Because of data and the ease at which we can communicate nowadays, everybody can do it from anywhere. And used to be a victim of a crime, someone had to victimize you in person. And most cowards don't act that way. They're cowards, or they're criminals. But now, because of your phone and your internet, they can be anywhere in the world and victimize you, and often do. And understand this, I'm gonna say a few cliches in here today, and people don't like cliches, but I always say they didn't become a cliche because they're not true. They're cliches because they're factual. So one of those cliches is, what do the idle hands make? Devil's work. So if someone, let's say, is in prison for 20 plus years, they don't have a lot going on. They have idle hands. So they make the devil's work. They're bored. So they sit in prison and they make phone calls to folks in Fayette County who have money or maybe a decent retirement. So you're gonna get a phone call to say you missed jury duty. You were supposed to be in Judge Thompson's courtroom last week. And he issued you a warrant for your arrest. And if you don't send us money right now, we're gonna put you in prison and we're gonna put you on the front page of the Fayette Daily News. And that way, all the other Baptists in Fayette County can see that you're a criminal. If you were Methodist, it wouldn't bother you. But That's how they work. Understand that every single fraud out there, every single fraud works on two principles. One is greed, and the second is fear. And when you are extremely young in this world and extremely old in this world, you typically get scared when people start talking about your livelihood. And when you're in your young and after it, your 20s, you're like, I'm used to being broke and I don't care what people think about me. So that fear and intimidation doesn't work as well as someone who, let's say, is on a fixed income, or they're by themselves because their spouse is no longer with them, or their kids are gone and out of the house. You get scared. The second is greed. And we have a lot of greedy people in this world. But if you remember way back in the day, like Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, my grandmother watched it relentlessly. And every time her doorbell rang, I was excited. But that is a thing of the past, but people remember that. So when they get an email or a phone call, hey, you won $5 million. No, you didn't. You didn't play anything, but you're greedy. So you say, hot diggity dog, what do I gotta do? Well, you gotta pay the taxes before we can give you the $5 million. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of these frauds will only work on people, like I said, that are scared or they're greedy, where if you just take a second and pause and realize this doesn't make any sense. I've not missed jury duty, and even if I did, I know the sheriff's office isn't gonna call me and ask for me to pay them in gift cards, which is a common scam. The other thing you have to remember is a lot of people don't report this crime because they're embarrassed or they're ashamed. And I'm here to tell you, we're not gonna make fun of you if you talk to us. We may say, why did you do that? But it's to learn about why you fell victim to something, to maybe educate folks like you in a room like this, so we can get the message out. The more people that are educated about this topic, the less these types of crimes are gonna work.
A lot of times you can be a victim and not realize it.
100%. Understand this as well. If you report something to the Fayette County Sheriff's Office, the way that process works, you call dispatch or the non-emergency number, or you call 911. Doesn't matter to me. Our 911 center is not so overwhelmed that it can't take a call. If you're the victim of a crime, that's what it's there for. They will send a deputy to your home, at which time I need you to hand over all your banking statements, to be the credit card number and the bank records, to someone in law enforcement, not just some Joe Blow off the street. But the reason I say that is this: if you bank with any of the national banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, SunTrust, any of those banks, they are not going to cooperate with us in a timely enough fashion where we can effectually make an arrest and get you your money back. That's a fact. If the CEO of Bank of America was in here right now, I would consider locking them up. Because it's so frustrating for you to call us and you know, you've been victimized and you're the victim of a crime, and the evidence that we need to go forward on that investigation is being held behind a wall of secrecy that they say they will give to us. They'll tell you, hey, we cooperate with law enforcement. And it's not entirely true. They kind of do. But I have to send them something called a subpoena. And it's a grand jury subpoena. So I can't write that. I have to send that to the courthouse. It goes through a process before it comes back to me, and then I send it to Bank of America. And then Bank of America might decide 2-3 months to finally get me those records. Well, most video surveillance systems have a retention period of 30 days. So by the time I get the information back, the video is gone. So that's why I say, if you're ever the victim, they're your records. You have a right to them. Go to your banking institution, get your records, and have that when you make the report. Now, as I said, a deputy can come to your home, or you can come to the sheriff's office. We have a deputy that's on staff at the sheriff's office 24/7, 365. Remember how I said no holidays off? I was that guy for a while. So we have someone there, it's just called a watch officer. So if you don't want the cops coming to your home because you're one of those, like I said, one of those Baptists that you don't want people to think bad of, you can come to the sheriff's office and do it that way. But either way, the more you can help us and the more information you get us, the quicker we can jump on your case and hopefully come to a good resolution. The biggest way people say, well, how can I prevent this ever happening to me? And the easiest way, and remember I said someone who was extremely young or someone who was older. The kids that are young remember this. The folks that are older forget that they taught it to their own kids and it was taught to them as a kid. And even if you're here today and you don't have any kids, you were once a kid at some point, and you heard this, and it goes back to another cliche. Don't talk to strangers. The easiest way to prevent fraud is don't talk to strangers. But if you're born and raised here in the South, that goes against a little bit of the nature of how you were raised about being nice to folks. And it goes back to the bad guys know that you're nice, so they target the Southeast because they know people will talk to them. We'll talk to anybody. You wave at people going down the street that you don't even know, which is great, and I don't want to change that. That's what I love it about here. When we get cops that are from other parts of the country, why do these people keep waving at me? They're just saying, hey, yeah, but they don't know me. I'm like, yeah, but they're nice. That's how you were raised. I love that about the South, and I want that to continue. But what I don't want you to do is fall victim to one of these scams. So if someone calls you and you don't know them, don't talk to them. Don't even answer your phone. My mom would sit there and have a 20-minute conversation with somebody she doesn't even know. But that was just how she was raised up. Same thing goes with emails. If you see an email today from Captain Brian Lee with a link in it, and I didn't tell you I was sending you an email, don't open it. And certainly don't click a link. The easiest way to target your computer or your phone is if you touch something that you're not supposed to. So just like you told your kids, or just like it was told to you when you were a kid, don't talk to strangers. If you get a text or an email from somebody that you don't know, don't talk to them. One of the common scams we have right now that especially works on grandparents, if you're a grandparent, is you get a phone call that says, hey, your grandchild A or grandchild B was involved in a wreck, and they're at the hospital, and we got a team here, and they're ready to go to work, but they need a little money. And again, it goes back to that fear. You would do anything. You may not do anything for your kid, but you'll do anything for your grandkid. And so that's how that works. But again, the easiest way to fix that is don't talk to them and pick up your phone and actually call your grandkid or call your kid and find out, no, Billy's not in Charleston. He's never even been to South Carolina. How can he be in a wreck there? So again, it goes back to just taking a breath, have some patience. If it's something legitimate, they're gonna get in touch with you. If someone knows you, they're friends with you, they're family, they're gonna be able to get in touch with you. Law enforcement will send a car to your house. It'll be blatantly obvious. We're not gonna do it by phone calls or emails. Judge Thompson's courtroom's not gonna subpoena you through a text. It's not gonna happen. It's hard enough to get them with certified mail. They're not gonna send a text. This book is great. I love this little book. It can sum up everything that needs to be said about frauds. One of the things, I don't know if you saw it recently, last week, we participate in, the feds have these neat little names, like last week was Operation Peachy Clean. And they went around, they have these devices that can detect a skimmer on ATMs and points of sale. For some reason, Family Dollars were being targeted. I think we may have one here in the county, but we got a lot of Dollar Generals, so they weren't one of them, thankfully. But we have someone that's attached to a task force. They're called a task force officer, and actually went out with them all over Atlanta. I think they found 33 skimming devices. So those are a little scary because they're getting more and more and more advanced. Used to, it would be blatantly obvious that something had a skimmer on it. Nowadays, they can just be hidden. Just as an example, I could go on to Amazon right now and buy something called a credit card skimmer. It's about the size of my Swiss Army knife. If you go to a restaurant, let's say, you're sitting at the table and you want to pay the bill, they take your card. As they turn around, they can do this, put that right back in their pocket. They now have your credit card number and everybody else that they've waited on for the last 8 hours, all on this device. And then they take this device typically and sell it to another bad guy. or that bad guy compromised them in some way, and that's the reason they're swiping these. But you just have to keep tabs. I always tell people, if you can pay in cash, pay in cash. If you don't want to and you want the sky miles like me and my wife did, we pay with a card, but you pay attention to where that card goes. Watch. Always keep tabs on your bank statement so you know if there's an unlawful charge. The quicker you catch it, the better off and a better job that we can do. So there's no easy, you're not gonna be able to find a skimmer everywhere, but there are still bad ones out there, so just be mindful when you're paying at the pump that there's not some box over it, or if you're at an ATM machine, if it looks different or weird, go inside. Don't do it at the pump. Keep an eye on your card. The next thing that's really gonna hurt folks in this room, and I know I'm gonna hurt your feelings, but I'm not here to be your friend, I'm here to get you the truth, okay? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Stop writing checks. If I told you to put your bank account number on a bumper sticker and put it on the back of your car, would you do it? No, you'd call me crazy. But yet, you do it every single time you mail a check because your bank account number is at the bottom of that check. And if you stick it in the mail, which is not the 1950s postal service anymore, the postal service nowadays, I don't know if y'all are like me, but I get my neighbor's mail all the time, which means my neighbor gets my mail all the time. That's even legitimate mistakes, but there's bad guys out there that steal mail for a living. That's what they do. And all they're looking for is a check, because that check is gonna have your bank account number. They can then go to Office Depot or Kinko's, not even a thing anymore, Staples, and buy blank check stock. They can buy a whole check book, they're blank. And so they take that, they put it in their computer, they type in your bank account number. They don't worry about the other stuff being right, because when those things run through a machine at a retailer, it's really not reading anything else. It's only reading that bank account and routing number. And so once they do that, they have it. And I'm here to tell you, that is not the target, that is not an elder exclusive crime. One of our biggest victims in Fayette County when it comes to stolen checks is, anybody want to guess?
Walmart?
Nope. Nope. They're taking stuff in, they're not sending stuff out.
Utilities.
Not a utility company.
Subdivisions.
Subdivision's close. Churches. Churches, especially during COVID, nobody was going to church, but they didn't want to feel guilty about not tithing. So they mailed the church their tithing checks. And most churches don't have someone 24/7 checking the mail. They might even check it once a week as a volunteer. It's not even their real job. They're just doing it as a part of the service to the church. So those checks sit in a box in an abandoned building that's only occupied once a week and only checked maybe once a week. And bad guys realize they can ride by and look, open the box, and it's just slammed full of checks. The second place that most of these things are compromised are blue box. People used to be secure. I used to drive over here to the courthouse to use the blue box that was right out here. It's real convenient. Until I found out bad guys can get those keys that open those blue boxes. And they'll open it up and hit pay dirt. That's the reason why there's not a blue box in front of the Fayetteville Post Office or the Peachtree City Post Office. It's because we jumped up and down and cried and fought and spit and raised so much Cain that they finally removed them, because we had so many victims in this county that were falling prey to that crime. You come up a certain way and you do a certain thing a certain way for so long, and changing it is scary or uncomfortable or inconvenient. That's another thing. Fraud is working these days so rampantly because we want the convenience of everything. If you remember way back in the day, if you used your credit card, they would ask you for ID. And people would get mad. Well, I've been in here 15 times. Why are you getting, those people are saving you. So if you go to a business establishment that is maybe doing a dual verification of you match up with that credit card, please thank them. They're doing us all a service. So, I know I won't change everybody's mind. My mother-in-law is my next door neighbor. Please pray for me. We live in the middle of nowhere in Pike County, on a dirt road, and our mailboxes aren't even at the end of our driveway. They're down a piece, so to speak, hundreds of yards from our home. That woman, who I've told for 20 years stop doing it, I can tell you at least once a week, I'm gonna ride by and there's gonna be a big orange stick telling the world, hey, there's something in here. There's something in this box. She'll never do it right before the mail runs. She'll wait till the mail runs, go down, get her mail, put something in it, and put that flag up. She'll even do it on a Friday. So it sits there all weekend going, hey, I'm in here. So please, 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 you don't have to be like her. Don't do it. Don't do it. I used to be able to say, take your mail inside. If there's just something you have to do, take it inside. But we're seeing those get compromised now. And it's not necessarily from the good employee that's worked there for 20 years. Unfortunately, much like other government services, they contract out to private companies. There's a company called Pitney Bowes that does mail sorting for the federal government. They had a location right next to Chick-fil-A corporate, right up the road in Union City. I can tell you some of those individuals, they're not federal employees, and they don't care, because they're probably not making a lot. And they see that opportunity of, hey, if I know if this says Coweta Fayette EMC, I know it's got a check in it. So if you can find a way to electronically pay directly from your bank to someone you owe money to, it's a lot safer. Is it impossible? No. And with the way technology is going, who knows what's going to be compromised. But I can tell you this, it's safe today. May not be tomorrow, but I know checks aren't safe today. Yes, ma'am.
I've got one thing going back to credit cards. I was told by one of the financial institutions that it is safer to tap your card rather than just swipe it.
100%. It is. If you have a tap card.
Yeah, and the reason is that when you swipe it, the number goes through. When you tap it, a code goes through.
It does.
So
Well, the way the swipe works is that little magnetic strip on your card, that's what's being downloaded. When you swipe, that's what goes. When you tap, it's a totally different electronic function. But there's bad guys. It's like, y'all remember when the chips came out?
Yeah.
And that was gonna fix everything? I went to a law enforcement conference 3 months before the chips came out. And at this conference, they told us that the chips had already been compromised. That the technology behind it the bad guys had already figured out a way. It goes back to one of the things I wanted you guys to help with. Are there any attorneys to be in the class besides Judge Thompson? None?
Got 2 interns here, maybe Lynn, 2 interns. And you went medicine on us, so that's all right.
Yeah. The reason I say that is the last function I was here with Judge Thompson is something I would have loved to have told their group. This is something you can help me with. Going back to those inmates that are at Georgia prisons, a lot of your phone scams are coming from them. They're either coming from overseas, and there'll be rooms filled with individuals who do nothing more than run scams. That's their job, or they're being threatened, and that's therefore their job under threat. The folks at the prison aren't doing anything. They're not threatened, they're bored.
Do they get a
So unfortunately, and that's what I want to tell you to work on, inmates can have iPads and cell phones. I'm not saying they're issued by the prison. I'm saying they have them. The same way they have, we call it hooch, which is homemade moonshine. The same way they have weapons called shanks. The same way they have anything. Who knows? But I know this. They sit there all day with nothing to do. And so they come up with new and innovative ways to get money. And then they take said money and usually give it to friends or family on the outside with they get the reward of having money put on their prison account so they can buy extra honey buns. or socks, or t-shirts. But this is how I need folks like the community to help. The fact that that can happen is crazy to me. You'll never be able to explain it. I understand there's something called the FCC, and it's federally illegal to jam cell phone signals, right? It's illegal. If I had a cell phone jammer in this room, I'd be violating federal law. But for some reason, they won't put one of those jammers on the prison and only jam in a little circle around the prison. It's against federal law. Yeah, but change the law. Well, you can. You can, you just don't want to. So if y'all can figure that out or help out with those interns back there, if y'all go to law school, I'm telling you, if you write the bill, you're gonna be instantly famous. I'll tell everybody you're my biggest hero. Because they can shut that down. I've just seen way too many people victimized, both young and older. It doesn't matter, but it makes me so mad that someone's sitting in a prison for armed robbery or child molestation, and somehow they're still victimizing the community. You're supposed to be sitting somewhere being punished, and you're still victimized. It's crazy. Yes, ma'am, you had a question?
Well, no, it was a naive question. I didn't think that prisoners could have phones.
I don't think legally, but I do know that there are some aspects where they, in an attempt to, what's the word, rehabilitate, which I'm all for. I love the idea of someone that had maybe a bad shot at life, going and actually getting in trouble, just like I got in trouble, and making a change from that. Decide to do the right thing and going forward, so they get their education, or they maybe that's the only way they can communicate with a loved one. I understand that part of it, but I don't understand having an avenue to victimize. We wouldn't hand them guns, so this little, well, what's that? While this isn't a gun, I can still commit crimes with it like crazy. I'm trying to think of any other trends. Yeah. Any other trends we're seeing right now? The main ones, I can tell you this: there is no legitimate business. There is no legitimate government agency that will ever ask you to pay in gift cards. Ever. 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 If you go tell Coweta Fayette EMC that you sent them some Amazon gift cards for your payment, your power's gonna get shut off.
Their name, their phone number, their supervisor's name and phone number, what federal agency they're with. And by the time I get through that, they've hung up on me, so.
Yeah, I would rather folks just not talk to them. But, understand they're getting more clever and more clever. I can assure you, and I use quotes, Captain Brian Lee from the Fayette County Sheriff's Office has called people in Fayette County and told them they mistreated him. And it wasn't me, but the caller ID said Fayette County Sheriff's Office, because we can spoof a phone number, and you and I can do it. I can show you how to do it in about 5 seconds. So again, people, if I call you, I'm gonna give you a way to verify I am who I am. And all law enforcement says that way. I'll simply, if I call you and you say, nope, Captain Lee, the real Captain Lee told me not to talk to strangers. I'll say, please call 911 and have them patch you through. And they can do that. And that way you know you're not talking to a stranger. I think that's about it for right now. But
Toll booth scam. Have you got a lot of those with the text?
Oh,
Everybody drove.
that's been a hot minute.
And now we all overtold. Yes.
And the fact that you're getting one from New Jersey and you've never been to New Jersey. But yeah, the sheriff actually, someone called his personal cell phone in a panic about just, hey, is there a warrant out for my arrest? And the sheriff said, what are you talking about? And then he did ask him, well, have you been to New Jersey? And they said, well, no. And he said, it's a scam. It goes back to what I'm saying. Just think something through. And I know it's hard, and like I said, that panic, it only works on good people, right? My mother was one of the most angelic people I've ever known. And we use terms nowadays, they have negative connotations like naive. You hear the term naive or ignorant. And people automatically have this like, well, that's a dirty word, or you're being mean. And the reality is, no, it's not. Being ignorant or naive about something that you don't know anything about is a good thing. If you remember, and you believe this, and whether you do or you don't, but you've heard it before, the original sin that happened in the Garden of Eden came from the tree of knowledge. It didn't come from anything that sounds ugly or nefarious. It's knowing. So, not knowing, my mother was a happy person. She had no idea there were bad guys in this world. She thought if you looked her in the face and in the dead eyes that you couldn't lie. And I thought the same thing when I started working in the jail, and I went to a lieutenant and said, hey, he didn't do it. we gotta get him out of here. It's been a mistake. And he literally, my lieutenant, what are you talking about? He looked me in the eye, said he didn't do it. So we gotta get him out. We can't put innocent people in jail. And then he brought me in a room, showed me a video, and that's him. Yeah. So I had to call my mother and say, Mom, you lied to me. But she didn't mean to. Bless her. These type of things, they typically don't work on bitter, mean people. They play against goodness. That's how it works. So please remember that.
Captain Lee, we, at the end of all the jury trials, I always try to talk to the jurors and tell them about the jury duty scam, because it really was hitting Fayette pre-COVID, but during COVID, we couldn't do jury trials. That's the one thing the Supreme Court said you can't do. You can't do jury trials, because how can you tell everybody spread out, yet go sit in that jury box? So we did video hearings, we did bench trials, we did everything but jury trials, but we're doing jury trials. And now we're doing them like crazy. Ask Sylvia, she'll tell you we're doing jury trials all the time. So I always go talk to the jurors afterwards, and I say, here's the jury scam, just like you mentioned. Somebody calls from Fayette County Sheriff's Office. This is Captain Brian Lee with Fayette County Sheriff's Office. We have a warrant for your arrest. You're supposed to go to courtroom 2D in front of Judge Thompson. Sheriff Babb has signed, made sure that I hear certain warrants. And they're very, very good, but I can't tell you how frustrating it is when the clerk will call it downstairs and say there's somebody from the community that has paid her $600, her $800, her $1,000, and I should stop there until about a year ago, a juror told me somebody from their Sunday school class paid $2,000 in the form of 4 Apple gift cards, just like you're talking about. And we all said, who did this? And that person was well educated, had a master's degree, is a supervisor for 20 direct reports. But when you just hear jail, the fear that you're talking about, it just kind of is a substitute for reason. And that person was like, it doesn't sound right, but I'm not going to go to jail and pay $2,000 with 4 $500 Apple gift cards. So anyway, it's happening.
It is, and again, it's scary, but there's ways to verify. There's always a way to verify. I know the most recent couple of things we've had that have been over a $200,000 loss have been computer takeovers. You'll get an email. Typically, it happens to business owners where they're paying out, money's coming in and going back and forth. And they'll see an email, and I keep using Coweta Fayette EMC, but that's just something. If you saw Coweta.emc.gov, G-O-V, and you saw the email, maybe it's off by 1 letter, or maybe there's a dot where there shouldn't be. That's a lot of how they get people. We've had an attorney, a very prominent, nice lady, who does real estate closings, and so it's not unheard of for her to send large amounts of cash, and she got an email from one of these counterfeit email accounts that was off by 1 little character, and she wound up sending well over $200,000, and that money's wired, so it was gone. There's no bringing it back. Especially when about 5 days goes by and the legitimate company's going, hey, where's our money? Well, I sent it to you. Here's a copy of where I sent it to you. You sent that to the wrong email address. So they wound up being in a pickle. So you really, especially if you're a business owner, counterfeit email accounts are one of the biggest problems we see with that. And the other thing they can do, if you click on the wrong link on your phone or in your email, they can literally take over your computer. So if you're one of those people, and I've got some of these in my office, you go to a lot of different websites and you get tired of typing in that password and you get sick of it. So you hit that little button that says remember. I want you to remember. So that way, every time I click here, I don't have to go through this every single time. Well, if I can get into your computer and you have all your passwords saved and all your banking information saved, I now don't need your password. I just need to get into your computer. And we've seen quite a few of those recently. I think one of the main ones right now, you know, I said go back to greed, and this isn't so much with our retired community as young people. This is a young people mistake kind of crime, where they see information on social media about getting rich quick, basically. They see people with stacks of money that they're their own age, and their idea of working for the next 30, 40, 50 years doesn't sound too pleasant. So well, how did they get their money? And they click on it, and they're told to invest in something called cryptocurrency that I still can't explain. I don't know how it works. It's crazy. I know it's real, kinda. The investment part of it is, whether it's something real tangible you can hold on to, I don't know. But they invest or think they're investing, and come to find out it's all a big scam. It's kind of like the Ponzi schemes of old that, you know, you see an investor telling you, hey, I know everybody you've ever talked to says anything from 4 to 7% is actually a pretty good little return on your investment. Anything over that's really good. Well, if a guy says, hey, I can get you 50% return, it's a scam. Going back to the cliches that I first started with. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. It is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I add something? Just a little story. I'm here from Oakland, caregiver for my mother. 2013, a friend of mine was running for mayor of Oakland, introduced me to a fellow who we both know, one of the gentlemen that started Reddit. I interviewed that person. This guy says, hey, I want to tell you something about a company I'm creating. It's called Coinbase. His name is Chris Anderson. He gave me my first Bitcoin. My advice to everybody, if you're going to get a cryptocurrency, make sure someone's giving it to you. Or if you want it yourself, mine it through a computer you have set up at your home. But paying into it like that is automatic, because whatever you're buying could turn to zero like that. And there you go.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep. That's great. You have another question?
I tried to do some of the online apps for taking money for my business.
Okay.
So one of them was Cash App.
Yep.
And everything seemed to be very legitimate, no problems whatsoever. This one lady wanted to pay with Cash App. I took her payment, and I don't remember exactly what the deal was. I handed her my phone to put something in, and she apparently put a code in.
Yep.
That money
Yep.
immediately started coming out of my.
Yep. Yep. The ones that and kids and women are the two of the biggest offenders of this trend, where, because again, it works on good people. If a child or a female came up to you and they're crying, and they may even look injured, and they say, can you please help me? I need to call my mom, or I need to call the cops. And you say, sure, and you hand them your phone. If you have any banking stuff on your phone, you just gave them your bank account. That's what they did, and that's what they did in that case.
And
It's very
I
common.
got all my paperwork together, and I came into the sheriff's department, and talked to the deputy there, and he said, I can tell you that this usually, you might as well say it's gone.
Oh, it is.
Because you can't really work with getting it back.
No.
But I had all my information, I had all the places that my money went to, which was New York immediately, and other northern states. And whatever it was y'all did, you found it, and you got my money back.
Yay! Wow. Yay. You can talking to 10 more people that aren't gonna have those nice things. I called the sheriff's office and they didn't do nothing. Which is not true, ever. Yes, ma'am.
Clark Howard recommends that if you use Venmo or Zelle or Cash App, whatever, you have a separate bank account with a limited amount of money.
Yes.
Only for that purpose. Do you
Yes,
recommend that?
I always plug Clark Howard. In any of these talks I do, and I do a lot of them. Clark Howard's an amazing fellow. I've never met him personally. Not invested in clarkhoward.com. But his website is like a clearinghouse. It's almost like a public library for just about anything, but especially a lot of the things in this book you'll find on his website. It tells you here's how to keep from being a victim, and then if you are a victim, here's the steps you should take. And one of the biggest things and easiest ways to keep from losing a lot of money, they're ingenuitive. They'll come up with a new scheme tomorrow I haven't heard of, and so on and so forth, and have since I started doing this and for. But one of the easiest ways to keep from losing a lot of money is to go to the bank and set up a second checking account. If you have to write a check, remember I said don't do it anymore. If you're one of those people that, nope, you paid your tithes at First Baptist the same way for the last 50 years and you're not changing it because you think God might get mad at you and you just have to do it, then transfer money from your first checking account into that checking account for that exact amount, or $5 over, $10 over, and write your check. And then when it clears, if it were to get compromised, they're not getting your operating budget. You can do the same thing with a credit card. I'll tell you, I got my first credit card at 45 years old, just 5 years ago. That part is true. That part is true. I never owned a credit card because of what I do for a living, and I saw the bad things that could happen. And then Clark Howard suggested, hey, set this thing up so that it can't touch your operating budget, so to speak. Because I was raised, if you couldn't pay for something, you couldn't have it. My parents were fluent in no. They could say it in 20 languages. They knew how to say no any way you wanted to. They'd say no. So I was just used to that. I was used to, if I couldn't have my credit card, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense to me. I can't have it. I can't go to Aruba. I mean, I just didn't know. But now that I've seen where it can be safe and they're not going to keep me from paying my light bill or my mortgage or my insurance, because that's the biggest fear. Those big deals like that, like what if my insurance got canceled? My home insurance or car insurance. Another question I get with groups like this, they see the advertisements for house lock, keep your home from being stolen. That's a question for our clerk of courts, Ms. Sheila Scudder. I don't know a lot about civil law. It would be a great thing for these other attorneys to talk about. I know filing a false document in our courthouse is a felony, and I know we'll lock you up. And I know we don't have problems with squatters in Fayette County. Nobody's stealing your house in this county while we work here, because we're gonna lock them up. They're stealing your house. That's not some privilege or right that somebody has just to steal your home. If they come in your house and you own a home and you don't want them there, we're gonna get them. It makes things simple. Don't overcomplicate the world. So if you ask me if those services are good or I don't know, I would say go to Clark Howard and see what he says. He's got a lot more experience with that kind of thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you to be awesome. Give Captain Lee a big round of applause. Alright, we learned something today. Alright, gotcha. There's things that we could all do better, but that was very engaging. He was excellent. So, thank you very much for being here. We are blessed. We are blessed to have Sheriff Babb, and they look out after us, and so it is great work. So I'm glad to have you here. So thank you very much for your job. I'm handing out some cards because we want to know what you want to learn. So if you would email us and let us know what you want to learn, you can email us if you want to get married a third time in a row at the courthouse, you can do that. But yes, you did and you will. But if there's a topic that you can think of that you want to cover, if you will let us know, and we will do it. And the other thing is, we want you to come to the courthouse. If you want to come see a trial, you want to come see a hearing. Lynn had to leave. She's at Whitewater High School. But Nash all the way back. He went to Starr's Mill. He's now at Brown. All right. And he's studying probably something something.
Nerd.
Well, yeah, that's right. He's gonna do this can be professor, this can be doctor or something. But here's what I told him when he went in the courtroom and watched. I said, look, this is not like CSI, this is not like Law and Order. I asked Nash, I said, Nash, this is not like Matlock. And you know what he asked me? This bright guy in the back, he goes, what's a Matlock? I said, anyway, we love for our students to come by, so we want you to come visit. So if you will email us on there, we'll invite you to the courthouse. We do open houses, but we want you to have all this information. But again, tell us what you want to learn. If you want to tell us on the way out, you can. But again, Sylvia, thank you for doing this, and give her a big round of applause. The next one is going to be, I think it's September 3rd. If anybody takes a picture of this, if you go to our Facebook page, Twitter is now X, but our Instagram and we always have court calendars up there for everything that we do during the day, during the week. We want people to come back to the courthouse. So if you ever want to know what we have on the calendar, all you got to do is go there, or you can, if you email us, we can tell you what's going on. But it looks like next week we're going to go with September 3rd. So we're going to we'll be right back here with Letitia on September 3rd. Any questions before we go? Anything else? Any final words? He got your money back. How about that? All right. All right. I'm going to let them stay and answer that question, but y'all have a great day. Thank you very much.